You know you have to let it go. But how? How do you release someone without feeling as if you're abandoning a part of yourself? Each day, that quiet ache in your chest reminds you of the bond that once felt unbreakable, a connection so deep it seemed woven into your identity. And yet here you are, realizing that holding on may be causing more harm than peace. There's a fear, one that almost suffocates. A fear that in letting go, you'll lose not only them but also a part of yourself, a piece that holds memories, hopes, and unfulfilled dreams. Detaching with love offers a path that isn't about abandonment or coldness. It's a quiet, mindful choice to value your emotional health while respecting the importance of what you shared. By choosing to let go in a way that preserves respect and kindness, you create space for healing on both sides. Letting go isn't about erasing memories or rejecting your history. It's about making room for personal growth. It's about allowing yourself and the other person the freedom to continue on separate paths, each one free to find happiness without the weight of dependency. The thought of releasing this connection brings a flood of conflicting emotions. On one hand, there's a need for relief, a desire for your own well-being and peace of mind. But on the other, guilt and love make letting go feel like a betrayal of what once was. We often mistake holding on for loyalty, fearing that distancing ourselves makes us heartless or selfish. This mindset traps so many, convinced that ending a relationship for their own peace is a failure or rejection, when in reality, it can be an act of courage and compassion. This inner conflict becomes a daily struggle, the need for self-preservation battling against the urge to care for the other person. Guilt becomes a constant companion, whispering that you should stay, that it's your duty to keep them happy, even at the expense of your own peace. It's easy to feel as if you're responsible for their well-being, that letting go would somehow harm them irreparably. But what we often overlook is that clinging to a connection for guilt's sake can lead to resentment, and this ultimately harms both people involved. True compassion means understanding when it's time to step back. Letting go with love at its heart is not an end but a beginning, a step toward embracing a balanced emotional life that honors both self-respect and compassion. It invites you to see separation not as a loss, but as a means of rediscovering yourself, independent and whole. Letting go with love is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a contradiction. How can you let someone go and still care deeply for them? But this concept goes beyond simply moving on. It's about honoring the relationship, respecting its significance, and at the same time, respecting yourself enough to release it. Letting go with love means acknowledging that, while someone was essential to a chapter in your life, holding on to that attachment might hinder both you and the other person from growing into who you each need to become. True detachment with love doesn't require coldness or distance. In fact, it's about creating space with warmth and kindness. It's recognizing that the person you're letting go of has played an important role in your journey. They've shared moments, experiences, and lessons that shaped you. These moments don't disappear, but clinging to them or to the person often brings more pain than peace. There's beauty in cherishing the past without allowing it to control the present. Our tendency to hold on tightly often stems from a belief that we're responsible for others' happiness, a feeling deeply rooted in how we view relationships. We may feel that if we let go, we're somehow abandoning the person. But letting go with love actually respects both individuals' autonomy. It's the realization that each person must find their own path to happiness. By embracing this understanding, you allow both yourself and the other person the freedom to grow, heal, and explore new experiences without the weight of dependency or obligation. To let go with love also means viewing the relationship through a compassionate lens. This approach helps you appreciate its impact and purpose without feeling bound by it. Rather than seeing it as a failure or loss, consider it as a phase that helped both of you become who you are today. This shift in perspective is powerful. It allows you to let go without bitterness or regret. Instead of focusing on what you're leaving behind, you begin to appreciate the journey that lies ahead. An essential part of letting go with love is to shift from dependency to gratitude. Rather than clinging to the idea of what could have been, try focusing on the positive memories and the lessons learned. This practice of gratitude not only lightens the weight of attachment, but also fills you with a sense of fulfillment rather than emptiness. Each moment shared becomes a valuable experience rather than an unresolved longing. With this mindset, detachment isn't a rejection but a gesture of respect, both for the other person and for the role they played in your life. Letting go with love doesn't erase the connection, it simply transforms it. It's about recognizing that relationships, like people, evolve and change. Some bonds are meant to last forever, while others are stepping stones. Embracing this idea brings peace to the process of letting go, reminding you that even though you're parting ways, the love and respect remain. But why we feel bad about letting go? Guilt is one of the most powerful emotions that hold us back when we know it's time to let go. Many people struggle with a deep sense of responsibility for the emotional well-being of those they care about. This sense of duty often becomes intertwined with guilt, making it difficult to prioritize personal peace without feeling as though they're failing someone else. Understanding why we feel guilty when we consider letting go is key to finding a healthy way to detach. One reason guilt takes hold is the belief that we're responsible for others' happiness. This belief can start early, as we're often taught that love means sacrificing for those we care about. Society, family, and cultural expectations all reinforce the idea that loving someone means being there for them no matter what, even if it comes at a personal cost. As adults, this belief evolves into a pattern of putting others first, sometimes at the expense of our own needs. The fear of disappointing someone or being labeled selfish often traps us in relationships we know aren't fulfilling or even healthy. There's also the fear of judgment. Many of us worry about how others might perceive our decision to let go. This fear can be amplified when a relationship has deep roots, like a long-term friendship, family bond, or romantic partnership. Questions begin to surface. What will people think? Will they see me as uncaring? This anxiety about outside judgment creates internal conflict, causing us to question our own motives and delaying our decision to let go. In addition to societal and cultural influences, personal insecurities can intensify feelings of guilt. For example, if someone has doubts about their self-worth, they might believe they owe the other person for accepting them or being there during difficult times. This perspective creates a distorted sense of obligation, making it feel as though detachment would be an act of betrayal or ingratitude. It's easy to overlook that healthy relationships don't demand lifelong dependency or self-sacrifice. Holding on from a place of guilt often means we're overlooking our own needs in order to fulfill an unspoken, self-imposed obligation. Interestingly, guilt can also be tied to memories and emotions stored within us. Psychologically, when we experience guilt, it activates memories of past situations where we might have felt inadequate or at fault. In relationships, guilt can surface if we feel we didn't do enough, or if we remember moments where we could have been more supportive or understanding. These memories add to the emotional weight, making the decision to let go feel like an abandonment of responsibility. But it's important to recognize that guilt doesn't always reflect reality. It's often a result of conditioned thoughts and beliefs that have become deeply ingrained. The need for approval can also play a major role in guilt. Many people seek validation from those around them, particularly from loved ones, as a measure of their worth. This need for validation creates a cycle of dependency, where one feels bound to another's opinion or emotional state. Letting go disrupts this cycle, which can trigger guilt as we question our self-worth in the absence of that validation. When someone depends on external approval, the idea of letting go feels like losing part of their identity. The key is recognizing that validation and self-worth must come from within, not from fulfilling someone else's expectations or needs. Ultimately, guilt in letting go is rooted in various layers of expectation, conditioning, and dependency. Recognizing these roots helps us see that guilt, while natural, isn't necessarily justified. It can be a byproduct of beliefs that don't serve our well-being. By understanding why guilt arises, we can start to unravel these beliefs and give ourselves permission to prioritize self-care. Letting go isn't about disregarding someone else's feelings. It's about respecting our own boundaries, knowing that a relationship sustained by guilt cannot thrive. Letting go with love, free of guilt, is a profound act of courage, one that honors both people by allowing space for each to find their own paths. Knowing when to let go requires a deep understanding of personal boundaries and how they shape our emotional health. Boundaries aren't barriers to keep others out, but rather guidelines that protect our well-being and define what we need to feel balanced and whole. Recognizing when it's time to let go often comes down to assessing whether a relationship respects or disregards these boundaries. When someone's presence consistently disrupts your peace or drains your energy, it's a sign that healthy boundaries have likely been crossed. One of the clearest signs that detachment may be necessary is the constant feeling of exhaustion or emotional fatigue around someone. When a relationship requires you to suppress your needs, carry unspoken expectations, or continuously sacrifice your well-being, it crosses into unhealthy territory. This doesn't mean the other person is at fault. Often, it's simply a matter of emotional misalignment. Both people may be unknowingly reinforcing patterns that exhaust rather than uplift, leaving each person feeling unfulfilled. Healthy boundaries mean knowing where you end and another person begins. They allow you to maintain your sense of self, independent of someone else's emotions, expectations, or behaviors. When we struggle with boundaries, it's common to merge our identity with another's, making it difficult to differentiate between our own needs and theirs. This merging often results in a sense of responsibility for the other person's happiness or well-being. Recognizing that maintaining individuality is essential to a balanced relationship is a crucial step toward setting healthy boundaries. Understanding that boundaries don't make you selfish or detached, but rather self-aware, is an important shift. We may feel guilty for setting limits, thinking it will disappoint the other person. But boundaries are actually a form of respect. They honor both your needs and the other person's autonomy. A healthy relationship respects these lines without crossing them. When someone repeatedly ignores or pushes against your boundaries, it becomes clear that their presence may not be supportive of your growth or emotional health. Another aspect of recognizing when to let go is the pattern of dependency. If you notice you're relying heavily on someone to meet your emotional needs, or if they're doing the same with you, it's a sign that the relationship may have become unbalanced. Emotional dependency drains both people involved, creating a cycle of expectations that neither may be able to sustain. Letting go in this context means allowing each person the freedom to pursue their own sources of happiness, separate from reliance on each other. Boundaries help clarify our needs and make it easier to identify relationships that no longer align with our well-being. Often these signals can be subtle: a persistent sense of anxiety, a reluctance to communicate openly, or a feeling of resentment. These emotions are cues from within, signaling that the relationship may be pulling you away from your authentic self. Respecting these cues is an act of self-respect and a step toward emotional freedom. Establishing healthy boundaries doesn't imply a lack of love or care. It's about maintaining your own space, so you have room to breathe, grow, and remain true to yourself. When a relationship cannot coexist with your need for boundaries, it might be time to consider letting go. Letting go, in this sense, isn't about ending love, but about choosing a path that honors both people without compromising personal integrity. Detaching from someone can be one of the most painful decisions we make, but it doesn't have to come with bitterness or resentment. When we choose to detach with love, we honor not only the other person, but also the time and energy invested in the relationship. Love and empathy provide a gentle foundation for the process of detachment, turning what could feel like abandonment into an act of respect and kindness. Detachment with love allows us to step back with understanding rather than harshness. Empathy plays a key role here. Empathy means recognizing the other person's value without making their feelings or choices your responsibility. Often, people confuse letting go with dismissing or disregarding someone, but empathy allows you to detach while still valuing the positive aspects of what you shared. This approach acknowledges the other person's humanity and the experiences you had together, keeping the connection intact even as you create distance. One of the common fears people face when letting go is the worry that it will erase or cheapen the memories made together. However, detaching with love preserves those moments as meaningful parts of your life. Viewing the relationship as a chapter rather than the entire story brings a sense of peace, allowing you to let go without the need to rewrite or diminish the past. By focusing on the love and empathy that once bonded you, you maintain the essence of the connection without allowing it to dictate your present. Letting go with love also brings a balance between emotional connection and personal independence. The more empathy you apply, the more clearly you can see both sides of the relationship. This perspective helps soften the internal conflict, making it easier to understand that detachment doesn't erase love, it merely reshapes it. In a way, it's a testament to the strength of that love. You care enough to let go in a way that doesn't harm, allowing each of you the freedom to pursue happiness on your own terms. Empathy reminds you that detaching isn't an act of erasure, but an evolution of the bond. You may no longer be part of each other's daily lives, yet the love can remain in the form of mutual respect. This form of detachment doesn't reject what you had. Instead, it acknowledges its importance and places it gently in the past. This compassionate approach minimizes regret, fostering a sense of closure that comes without bitterness or unresolved feelings. Detaching with love and empathy redefines what it means to let go. It's a way of honoring the connection while prioritizing your own growth. This doesn't mean keeping someone at the forefront of your thoughts, but rather allowing the relationship to settle naturally in your heart, with warmth rather than conflict. When you let go with empathy, you give yourself permission to move forward without losing sight of the compassion that once brought you together. Guilt is often the heaviest weight we carry when trying to let go. It stems from a feeling that, in choosing our well-being, we might be doing something wrong or even harming the other person. Overcoming this guilt requires more than just telling ourselves to move on. It involves actively working through the complex emotions that keep us attached. By engaging in intentional practices, we can begin to release the burden of guilt and embrace detachment as a form of self-respect. The first step in overcoming guilt is to recognize that prioritizing your emotional health is not an act of selfishness. Society often teaches us that self-care means putting ourselves first at the expense of others. But true self-care respects everyone involved. Start by reminding yourself that your happiness and peace are just as important as anyone else's. This mental shift can be empowering, as it allows you to view detachment as a way of honoring both yourself and the other person, by avoiding resentment or unhealthy attachment. Writing can be a powerful tool for processing guilt. By keeping a journal, you create a space to examine and understand the feelings that hold you back. Take time to explore why you feel guilty, and whether that guilt is based on your true feelings or on beliefs imposed by others. Sometimes our guilt doesn't stem from the current situation, but from past experiences where we were taught to put others first or felt responsible for someone else's happiness. Journaling helps untangle these complex emotions, allowing you to identify which feelings are truly yours and which you can release. Another effective technique for overcoming guilt is practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same understanding and kindness you'd offer a friend in a similar situation. A helpful exercise is to imagine what advice you would give a close friend facing the same dilemma. Likely, you'd encourage them to do what's best for their well-being without judgment. By applying this perspective to yourself, you create a more forgiving and compassionate mindset, reducing the power of guilt over your actions. It can also be useful to challenge the inner critic that amplifies guilt. We all have an inner voice that judges our choices, often pushing us to feel ashamed for choosing ourselves. When these thoughts arise, try to view them objectively. Ask yourself if the guilt you feel is rational or if it's simply a conditioned response. By separating yourself from this inner critic, you begin to recognize that guilt doesn't define your worth or invalidate your need to let go. Mindfulness meditation is another technique that helps release guilt. When you meditate, you focus on being present in the moment, observing your emotions without judgment. This practice allows you to see guilt as just another feeling that will eventually pass. Through mindfulness, you learn that emotions like guilt are temporary and don't need to dictate your actions. Letting these feelings come and go naturally allows you to approach detachment with a calm and centered mind. Reframing guilt into gratitude is a powerful way to shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on what you think you're taking away by detaching, focus on what you're grateful for. Think about the positive experiences and growth that relationship brought into your life and express gratitude for it. Gratitude shifts the focus from loss to appreciation, making it easier to let go without feeling weighed down by guilt. This practice encourages a sense of closure that feels complete and free of regret. Lastly, affirmations can be a subtle yet impactful way to reinforce self-acceptance. Simple statements like, "I am worthy of peace," or "I honor my needs with compassion," can help rewire your thinking over time. Affirmations serve as gentle reminders that choosing yourself is valid, and that guilt is not a permanent state. Each time you feel guilt creeping in, use these affirmations as a way to ground yourself in the present and acknowledge the courage it takes to let go. These techniques together help to unravel the complex layers of guilt, giving you the tools to move forward with less emotional weight. Detachment doesn't mean forgetting or devaluing what you shared with the other person. It means acknowledging that love and respect for yourself are essential parts of any healthy relationship. By releasing guilt, you allow yourself to let go in a way that feels empowering, not burdensome. Letting go isn't just an outward decision, it's also a profound internal journey. Self-awareness is the compass that guides us through this process, helping us understand not only why we feel attached, but also how our inner thoughts and feelings shape that attachment. Cultivating self-awareness during detachment means observing our emotions and reactions without judgment, allowing us to see our true motivations and break free from patterns that no longer serve us. Self-awareness begins with reflection. Take time to consider the role this person or relationship has played in your life. Ask yourself what you truly gained from it and what parts of you were drawn to that connection. This introspection reveals whether your attachment is rooted in love, dependency, or an unmet need within yourself. Recognizing these motivations can be eye-opening. Often, what we think of as love may be fulfilling something we're missing in ourselves. Techniques inspired by Carl Jung, such as identifying projections, can be invaluable here. Projections occur when we assign our own hidden emotions or desires to another person. For example, if you see someone as a source of strength or validation, it may be that you're projecting an inner desire for self-confidence or self-worth. Recognizing these projections brings clarity, allowing you to separate what you see in them from what you need to cultivate within yourself. In other words, self-awareness enables you to reclaim the qualities you may have unknowingly given away. Dream analysis, another Jungian tool, can also help bring subconscious feelings to the surface. Our dreams often reflect unresolved emotions and hidden aspects of ourselves that we may not recognize in our waking life. Reflecting on recurring dreams or images associated with the person you're letting go of can reveal lingering fears or desires, helping you understand the deeper reasons for your attachment. Throughout the process of letting go, check in with yourself regularly. Self-awareness isn't a one-time realization, it's an ongoing practice. Notice if certain memories, emotions, or reactions come up, and observe them without trying to change them. This practice builds emotional resilience, teaching you to respond rather than react, which can make the process of detachment feel less overwhelming. Self-awareness brings empowerment by helping you understand who you are beyond any relationship. It turns detachment into a journey of rediscovery, reconnecting you with the qualities, strengths, and values that are truly your own. When considering detachment, it's essential to examine the core of your connection with the other person. Reassessing a relationship from an objective standpoint allows you to gain insight into whether it aligns with your well-being. This process isn't about dismissing the bond you shared, but about evaluating it in a way that clarifies whether it's still meaningful and supportive of your growth. Start by asking yourself fundamental questions. Is this connection built on genuine love, or is it sustained by familiarity and habit? Reflecting on this question can reveal whether the relationship genuinely uplifts you, or if it's become a comfortable yet unfulfilling pattern. Often, what keeps people attached is a fear of change or loss of routine rather than a deep-seated need for that particular person in their lives. Another powerful question is, am I staying out of fear? Fear of loneliness, guilt, or judgment? Staying in a connection solely to avoid uncomfortable emotions can lead to a cycle where both individuals feel held back. Recognizing that fear is at the root of attachment can empower you to confront and release it, creating a path toward greater independence and self-trust. Consider as well, am I seeking validation or fulfillment that I could cultivate within myself? Many attachments are based on the desire for affirmation or identity. By relying on someone else for these feelings, you may overlook the opportunity to build a strong, self-sustained sense of worth. This question encourages you to view the connection through a lens of self-reliance, helping you understand whether it aligns with who you truly are or merely fulfills a temporary need. Finally, ask yourself, what would life look like if I allowed myself to step back? Imagining a life without this relationship can bring clarity, as it shows whether detachment would create peace or leave a void. This exercise isn't about diminishing the person's value, but about envisioning how much room you could make for new experiences, personal growth, or healthier connections. These questions serve as mirrors, allowing you to see the relationship as it is, rather than how you idealize it. They offer a practical path to self-understanding, shifting the focus from fear and obligation to clarity and empowerment. Reassessing your connection isn't about blaming anyone. It's about taking an honest look at what the relationship contributes to your life and whether it aligns with the person you're becoming. Detaching doesn't have to mean cutting someone off abruptly. In many cases, a gradual approach allows both people to adjust to the change while maintaining a respectful and amicable bond. This method of releasing gently can be particularly helpful when detachment feels overwhelming or when an immediate separation seems too harsh. By embracing gradual techniques, you create a pathway that respects the connection you shared while prioritizing your need for emotional space. One effective technique for gradual detachment is setting incremental boundaries. Start by identifying specific aspects of the relationship that you feel ready to distance yourself from, rather than attempting a complete break all at once. For instance, you might reduce the frequency of communication, giving yourself the opportunity to recalibrate emotionally. Each step allows you to explore how it feels to step back, without entirely removing the person from your life, easing you into a new rhythm over time. Visualizing a life with more balance and independence can also be a helpful tool. Visualization involves imagining a version of your life where you feel at ease, with emotional energy focused on personal growth and new interests. Picture the freedom that comes from releasing any dependency, and how this space might allow you to build new, fulfilling routines. This mental practice can reinforce your decision, making it easier to embrace change without resistance or anxiety. Another powerful way to foster a gentle release is by cultivating interests outside the relationship. Focusing on new hobbies, strengthening other friendships, or developing personal goals helps shift your attention away from the bond you're detaching from. These alternative sources of connection and joy not only support your independence, but also reinforce that your life is multifaceted, enriched by diverse relationships and activities beyond a single attachment. Adopting routines that support emotional well-being is equally essential. Practices like meditation, journaling, or even taking time for physical self-care can provide moments of introspection and grounding as you gradually detach. Each activity reinforces your sense of autonomy, allowing you to find comfort in solitude and embrace detachment without the need for drastic measures. Creating a buffer of emotional space while maintaining kindness is a delicate balance, but it's possible. By recognizing that relationships don't have to end abruptly, you permit both yourself and the other person to adjust to the shift naturally. Detachment, approached gradually, doesn't have to signify loss. It can represent growth, signaling that while you value the relationship, you're also prioritizing your journey of self-discovery. In essence, gradual detachment respects both the past connection and your current needs, making it possible to step back without creating a sense of abandonment. This gentle approach allows you to ease into a new phase of independence, empowering both individuals to find their own paths without a forced or abrupt separation. Solitude can feel intimidating, especially after being closely connected to someone else. However, viewing solitude as a space for growth rather than a void can transform your entire experience of letting go. Embracing time alone isn't about isolation. It's about creating an environment where you can reconnect with yourself without external influence. It's a chance to discover what truly fulfills you, independent of anyone else's presence or expectations. One of the most powerful aspects of solitude is the clarity it brings. Without distractions, you have the freedom to observe your thoughts, desires, and emotions without interruption. You gain insight into what genuinely matters to you, which can be surprisingly refreshing after a period of emotional dependency. Solitude provides the silence necessary to rediscover your goals, values, and dreams, which may have been overshadowed in a close relationship. In solitude, you also have the opportunity to cultivate inner resilience. When you no longer rely on someone else to feel valued or complete, you start building a foundation of self-confidence that isn't tied to validation from others. This self-assurance becomes a solid grounding point, giving you the strength to pursue life's challenges independently. Over time, solitude turns into a supportive companion rather than something to fear or avoid. Another advantage of embracing solitude is the chance to explore new interests and skills. With more time and energy for yourself, you can dive into activities you may have overlooked or postponed. Whether it's developing a creative hobby, learning a new skill, or simply enjoying peaceful moments of reflection, these experiences enrich your sense of identity. They allow you to see that your life is complete on its own, full of possibilities you may not have noticed before. In seeing solitude as an ally, you come to appreciate the joy of your own company. Rather than viewing it as a space lacking something, you can transform it into an arena for self-discovery and personal growth. Solitude invites you to meet yourself fully, deepening the connection within that ultimately supports all other relationships in your life. Embracing this time alone becomes a key part of moving forward with purpose, free from the weight of dependency and attachment. The beauty of letting go with compassion is that it creates a pathway for peace. Reaching the decision to let go with love is a powerful step toward emotional freedom. It's a journey that challenges us to face our fears, our guilt, and our attachments, all while honoring the compassion we feel for the other person. Letting go doesn't erase the love or the value of what you shared. It simply creates space for both you and the other person to flourish in new, fulfilling ways. As you move forward, remember that choosing detachment isn't about rejecting your past. It's about embracing your present with clarity and making room for a future that aligns with your own needs and aspirations. Letting go with love requires courage, but it also offers a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing you are staying true to yourself. Each moment you allow yourself to let go with kindness, you build a foundation of strength and self-respect that will carry you through every chapter of your life. This journey is not only about finding independence, but also about discovering that your happiness is something you can create within yourself. By choosing to detach, you free yourself from dependency, opening up a world where love can exist without conditions. In learning to let go with empathy, you're not only respecting the other person, but also embracing the beauty of self-empowerment. You have the capacity to love deeply and still choose what's best for you. Take this experience as an opportunity to trust in the process of change. Trust that by letting go, you're honoring the relationship in a way that brings out the best in both of you. Detachment doesn't diminish the connection. It redefines it in a way that respects your growth. This journey isn't just a choice to release someone else. It's a choice to embrace yourself. As you continue this path, let it remind you of your own resilience and the possibilities that await when you honor both compassion and self-care. If this message has resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on your own relationships and the ways you can bring balance and peace into your life. And if this journey has inspired you, consider sharing it with others. You never know who might need a reminder that letting go can be a loving act, one that opens doors to new beginnings for everyone involved.